The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. I'd like to share with you a little bit of an email exchange, which I would have liked to have carried a bit further in order to embrace more fully the truth of the Incarnation. This email exchange some of you were part of because it began with the midweek message that I sent out earlier this week, or should I say this past week. The way it went was like this. It was from G.K. Chesterton, who helps us to appreciate a little bit more our custom of sharing Christmas presents. But first, he shared a pious perspective. He said, "I do not give presents in a gross, sensuous, terrestrial sense, but instead I think about truth and purity. And as a result, friends are much better for it." And to kind of get people to engage in this sentiment a little bit more, I wrote, "Sounds holy, right?" Except Chesterton said, that sentiment is entirely unchristian. In fact, I didn't say this in the email, but that quote was from Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science, which is not a Christian denomination, but it's really a heresy. Why? Because that group, for all their good intentions and the good work that they may do, they deny an aspect of the Incarnation that's hard, which is that old heresy called Gnosticism. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But further, as Chesterton unpacked his thought, said, the idea of embodying goodwill, that is, of putting it into a body, embodying goodwill, he said, is the huge and primal idea of the Incarnation. He said, a gift of God that can be seen and touched is the whole point. Christ himself, he said, was a Christmas present. The email goes on a little bit further. Now that immediately saying Christ himself is a Christmas present might just seem like a cute way of just trying to connect Christ to our idea of sharing presents. But his point is this, is that this is the archetype of giving something incarnational, giving something physical, giving something material, is that God himself became material. So it's not a platitude to say that Christ himself was a Christmas present. And so the response, now back to the email exchange, somebody who I really respect, a very holy, dear soul, said, well, this is a helpful reminder, he said, because I am somebody who really tends toward the ethereal. He said, the whole idea of the body, he said, mystifies me. So he didn't really say he quite moved beyond that yet. And so I just responded casually, yes, the church is always embattling the old heresy of Gnosticism. To which he didn't reply. Why? Because it might sound like I was accusing him of being, a heretic or something like that. I hope he wasn't thinking that. I hope he's just done with the exchange. But here's the thing. Gnosticism is one of the great arch heresies, along with Arianism. With these heresies of the church, it just seems to morph and take different forms and comes up again and again, even though they were settled once and for all. Thomas Howard, a great convert of the late 20th century, evangelical to Catholicism, describes that heresy of Gnosticism very well. He says, there has always been efforts to disengage earthly existence from the prison of flesh and to fly to the heavenly ether where we are liberated into real and eternal life unhampered by these bodies. Now, if you're like me, this doesn't sound like a bad thing. This sounds pretty holy. We don't want to be liberated from our bodies holding us back. It's not necessarily an unholy sentiment in itself, but isolated from the whole picture of our faith is where we get the problem. Howard goes on, Eastern religions, mystery cults, those are the kind of early church manifestation of Gnosticism, and all forms of Gnosticism and Manichaeanism offer this as the desideratum. But early in the game, he says, the church condemned the whole effort as heterodox. So further on, Gnosticism is the idea that you have something that is outside you, a knowledge that saves, that is apart from your body. Now, when I was actually, after seminary, newly ordained as an Anglican, received an Orthodox Protestant seminary education, heard Christopher West, relatively famous for his teaching of the theology of body, saying that he encapsulated Gnosticism this way, to say, here's the heresy, spirit good, body bad, simple as that. Which I stopped and thought, gee, don't I often think spirit good, body bad? Because here's the thing, is that we tend to see the problems of the body, the materialism. Let us eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. St. Paul mocks that in the scriptures, that perspective, this Epicurean ideal. In the sense that we can just embrace our bodies or manipulate our bodies in a sense to make a reality apart from God. But the response to this heresy can be to go to the other extreme, another heresy, that the spirit is good and the body is all bad. The Christian reality is that God takes his creation and elevates it. It's not either or, it's both and. Not only does he take the body and elevate it, he himself comes down and infuses the body with spirit. So it's not one or the other. It is spirit and body together. Thomas Howard goes on to take this to, I don't want to say its conclusion, but to take it further, to lead us to that journey, that conclusion that we will not fully know until we are fully embodied at the end of time. He says, indeed, all the great acts in the drama of redemption proceed in grossly carnal terms. Creation, he made these things, these pebbles and flatworms and radishes. Covenant, you had to lug stones and build altars and knife your best lamb in the throat. You see, this is the whole witness of redemptive history. Then incarnation. Truly, he did not abhor the virgin's womb. Passion. The drama gets down to pieces of timber and gashes. Resurrection. Just when we thought that the flesh had been overthrown, out it comes again. Ascension. Now this is too much. That flesh is taken into the midmost mysteries of the triune Godhead forever. Eucharist and baptism, things, physical things, at the center of the Christian vision and practice for as long as time lasts. So I said this doesn't draw us to conclusion because he's painting a picture for us of this both and incarnation reality, spirit and flesh together as long as time lasts. But not only has Christ taken our flesh forever, our hope is not that we will just be with him in heaven after our bodies are done, but that we'll be re-embodied. That's the hope. That's the hope that even our Jewish forefathers believed. That was the fullness of redemption, the ultimate resurrection of all believers at the end of the age. That is all at the core of the incarnation. Let us embrace it more thoroughly now, yes, by giving gifts, yes, by feasting. Not in a gross, unspiritual sense, but in a spiritual sense. as a down payment for what will be our reality at the end of time and forever. Yes, Christ was made flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth.